Yo, I'm Brendan. Today I'm going to reveal to you the 3 passive investments that made my wife and I millionaires in 11 years. The reason I say 11 years is that's basically how long we were investing in these things and how long it took us to accumulate enough money to get over that $1 million net worth. And it's a tricky thing, right? How do you know what to invest in? I'm not by any means recommending that you invest in these things because this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my journey with you, my kind of story of what we did, how we did what we did, because I think we should talk more about money and we can be more open together and learn about money together, sharpen the axe, so to speak. And then as a community, we'll benefit together. So let's get started. First off, the main way that my wife and I like to invest is in the stock market, and that's because it is just so passive. We were tempted to use real estate as an investment because there's a lot of tax benefits. It's pretty exciting to be able to take something that was worth less money, put a lot of sweat equity into it, and use connections that I had working in construction, fix it up, and potentially create value by doing that. But at the same time, it also, for us, feels like there's a lot of risk doing that. And it also just feels a little bit more like a gamble because you have to put so many of your eggs in one proverbial basket. You've got to use a lot of cash or otherwise some kind of credit to be able to purchase the house, buy supplies, pay vendors, get everything set up to be able to fix up the house, and then either live without that money because you're going to rent it out, or hopefully get the money back out of it whenever you sell it if you're doing like a fix and flip situation. So it's one place where you've highly concentrated a bunch of your money that you're investing and you're basically betting on that thing working out. And that's one of the reasons we choose the stock market, is it allows you to kind of even out that distribution over the course of time, so you don't have to have as much up front, and you're investing in a bunch of different things that aren't just one particular property. Plus, the reality is, what's more passive than the stock market? We sit around and do nothing, like talking to renters or realtors or people to come and fix a leaky toilet in the middle of the night. There is nothing that we have to do besides sit here and watch the account grow, or at least we hope that it grows. So the first thing that I invested in, even before I met my wife, this was money that I came into our relationship with, was the stuff that I had invested in through my company's 401k. And one of the investment options that they gave us there is called a target date fund. This kind of investment is really handy if you're a beginner or if you just feel like you don't want to mess with picking individual stuff in the stock market, because you choose a target date that you would potentially plan to use that money. So for a lot of people, that's their retirement date. Hey, whenever I reach 60 years old, I know I'm going to have this money because I'm not going to be working anymore. So give me all the money by then. And so what these target date funds do is they give you something like an estimated retirement year, and it's literally in the name of the fund. Like these ones on Vanguard's site spell it out even more because they give you the year that you'd probably be retiring, but then they also kind of interpolate your birth year and your number of years left to retirement. And of course, all that's just built on like standard retirement age, which is like early 60s. If you're planning to retire early, then you'd have a different kind of setup than this. But for the most of us, it's pretty easy just to pick a date here and say, oh, I was born in this year range, so then maybe it makes sense for me to pick this kind of target date fund. So way back in the day when I was working at a Target retail store, they offered me something called a Target Date 2050 fund, and I jumped all over it. Because I was born in the 80s, it makes sense to plan on retiring somewhere around 2050. And so what this fund does is it initially starts off very aggressive. It says, look, you're young, you've got a lot of time to invest, you've got a lot of time for this stuff to grow, so let's go after the most growth possible. Let's pick the kind of investments and the companies that would probably grow the most over this time period. And the reality is we have no assurance this is going to happen. Nobody can predict the future. Nobody can jump into a YouTube video or a podcast or any other kind of platform and claim that they definitively can predict what's going to happen, because they can't. So all we can really do is work off of the probabilities of things happening in kind of a logical way based on what we know as far as how the market works. So I started investing the minimum in my 401k so I could get the match there. It was like 3% or something like that. 3% of my $15 an hour is going into this 401k. Very, very slow start. And it takes absolutely forever to build up to like $10,000 in your investing account. If you're not there yet, you're getting started, oh my gosh, it takes an eternity, but stick with it, because once it does, it's so satisfying to reach that milestone and to see the money accumulate a bit faster. And then as time goes on and you're investing in something like a target date fund, what it does is it automatically changes the investments that are within that little fund for you. Think of it like a basket of goodies. What's in the basket of investments for you changes over time to be less and less risky. Typically, people like to do that. Whenever you get older, you want to kind of hang on to the money that you've got, because if you're 5 years away from retiring, maybe you don't want to risk a big market downturn taking a bunch of your money away, so you'd rather be into something a little bit safer. That's up to you to decide, but that's what a target date fund does for you. The beauty of it is that it's hands-off. It's extremely passive. You're not just picking one thing that's fixed for all time, it's actually changing and growing with you as you age, and it's doing the kinds of things that most people would choose to do anyway if they were paying a professional, if they were doing it on their own. This is over the course of a 20, 30, 40 year long career. and it's doing all that work for you, there's basically nothing more passive than this. Nothing I can think of anyway. And so over time, as I switched jobs, I would take that 401k money and I would roll it over into either the next 401k, or I'd transfer it out of that and roll it into an IRA, an individual retirement account. That way I could have all the control over it. I could keep investing money in it, and that way I wouldn't forget it at that old job, because a lot of people forget that they have 401ks from their old work and it's still their money. I made a whole video about it. I'll link it in the end of this video for you so you can watch that next. It's incredible, the billions and billions of dollars that people forget that they have. This is your money in your 401k. Keep it. All right, enough of a 401k rant. Let's keep going. Fast forward a couple years later, and I've met my wife, and now she's got access to a 401k through her job, and we immediately get signed up. As soon as possible, we signed her up, and we also got her in a target date fund. And to this day, she's still largely investing in that same target date fund. So it's very easy to just set it and forget it. If you find something you like, stick with it. If you find someone you like, put a ring on it. And that's what we did. Then after that, I got a job, and my company wouldn't allow me to access their 401k for an entire year. The whole first year of employment, you're like boxed out. You're not allowed to use the 401k. So I had to go somewhere else and find other places to invest because I couldn't use their account. Thankfully, I had IRAs open already, and so I could use those. And for these, we chose a slightly different kind of methodology as far as what to invest in, because I'd been doing some more reading. And the only thing that I didn't absolutely love about a target date fund is the potential to continue to be pretty optimistic and growth heavy into your middle years of life. What I didn't want to do is miss out on more of that growth when we got into our 30s, 40s, and 50s, because there's still a lot of growth that could happen. So as that target date fund turns down your risk over time to be more and more bond heavy, which is not very risky, but also not very profitable, I knew we'd be giving up on some gains. And so I thought, okay, let's balance this out and let's be a lot more growth minded. And so with my own IRAs, as I waited for my own 401k to come online and have access to it and all that jazz, I went into a total stock market index fund. And an example of one of those would be VTI. It's the Vanguard version of that, but I'm sure Fidelity and a bunch of other people have their own. And so the general thesis is that whenever you put money into a total index fund, you are buying the entire American stock market, essentially. You're saying, give me a proportional slice of everything that the stock market has to offer, and then every time you buy into it, you get another slice. And for me, this is the investing equivalent of going with the flow. You know that part in Finding Nemo, whenever the turtles get in that underwater jet stream situation, and they don't have to swim very fast because they're just keeping up with the water that's already traveling anyway? That's kind of like what this total stock market index fund is. Not quite as fun as swimming under the water with some silly turtles, but it also keeps up with the flow of the market. So you're not trying to go out and be super smart and make really crazy investing decisions to try and beat the market, which is a very common phrase that everyone tries to do. Oh yeah, I'm going to beat the market. It's like the litmus test. It's like the average that you want to get is basically the market average. And if you can beat the market, then people will pat you on the back and go, wow, you've done so well to beat the market, because it's so easy to just match it. Whenever you invest in something like VTI, you are getting the market. You are by definition in that flow of the water doing what it's doing. And typically that flow has been plenty fast. Like when those turtles are in that little jet stream, you don't see them paddling away trying to go any faster. Like they're already traveling fast. It's a good speed. They can relax. They're moving along quite well. And that's really how I feel investing in this total stock market index fund is we're moving along at a great pace. If we got these same returns for forever, we would be more than happy, because it's been a pretty wild ride for the last 11 years. And frankly, I don't need or want to beat the market. I don't want to accept the risk that it takes to potentially beat the market to maybe get a little better return, but also to maybe get a worse return. Give me that nice steady average. Put me in the jet stream with the turtles. I'll be happy, and we'll end up at our destination. And the third element of our investing that helped us to become passive income millionaires in 11 years is basically the rest of our portfolio. There's so much of it that is just the total stock market index fund and target date funds that everything else is a smaller proportion of what our whole portfolio is made up as. To give you an idea of the percentage, I would say probably 85-90% of our total portfolio is this kind of total stock market fund or target date fund. And so the rest is just tiny little pieces here and there. We've invested in growth index funds like the Vanguard Growth Index Fund. We've also got money in international funds. And so you can have something that basically says, give me all the stock markets except America. Because if we have the total stock market, which is America, then you also can invest in things that aren't America just to give you a little more diversity. What if America has a bad year? Maybe the rest of the world can kind of pick up the difference. That way you cover all those bases. One of those funds, for example, is called VXUS, and it's the Vanguard Total International Stock ETF. It looks like this on Robinhood. And this last 10 or 15% of the remaining bits of our portfolio that aren't the total stock market fund or the 2050 retirement fund are the things that are most likely to change. They're the things that are kind of most variable that we might play around with. I used to invest in a lot more bonds. So we'd be in something like BND, the Vanguard Total Bond Market Fund. And honestly, that didn't hurt us too bad. Even though the returns have been pretty awful, overall, that fund still helped us to become millionaires. Now, only in the last few months have I gotten out of a bunch of our bonds because they've been just basic junk in terms of returns, because I still have at least 10 more years probably until we retire. And generally, I'm just kind of growth minded. I'm a little bit optimistic. And so I think that the stock market should continue to do what it's doing. And I don't have any more confidence in the bond market than I do the stock market. So may as well be in the stock market and optimize for some more growth. And despite all of that, in lieu of all of that, I think the critical principle here that has actually made us be able to accomplish this is focusing on investing as much money as we possibly can, and in doing the boring, sensible, well-recommended path of index investing. I didn't make a fortune on NFTs or Forex or starting some kind of crazy business that's a little bit shady, but as long as you do it this way, you won't get caught. Like, it was none of that kind of get rich quick, work 20 minutes a day and become a millionaire kind of schemes that you see online or you see advertised elsewhere. It's really none of that. It was a very boring, kind of consistent, invest as much money as you can this month. Then the next month comes around, invest as much money as you can again, and just do that for 11 years. I mean, that's a long time. What is that, like 132 months? Fact check my math on that. 132 months of doing really boring stuff. And if you're investing in your 401k, that's probably every 2 weeks whenever you get a paycheck. So that's 264 times that we've probably contributed to our 401ks over the years just to make this happen. And by nature, I hate that kind of stuff. I am a flighty, impulse-driven, needing to keep moving and changing and trying new stuff kind of person just by default, by like the way I'm constructed. I'm not a very consistent, trudge along in the same direction, follow a structure kind of person. And yet, this is probably the best way for most of us to invest. I mean, I'm not the investing expert out here, but people like Warren Buffett and other people who are a lot smarter than me recommend that average Joes do this kind of thing. And so that's what we did. I have to motivate myself to stay focused and do this kind of thing because it is so counterintuitive for me. And so I have quotes like this on my computer all the time so I can see them. This is one by Rich Roll, the podcaster, runner, author. He says, "Small things with extreme regularity and consistency." Like, that is the formula for success, for accomplishment, for taking down any kind of big goal. That's what you got to do. Small things with extreme regularity and consistency. I think I'm more attracted to the idea of giant things with very little regularity and lots of inconsistency. You know, like, let me make a couple of really big decisions and hope it all works out based on that. He's saying the way to be successful is the opposite of that. So that's kind of like the investing philosophy I've tried to embody. Small things, be regular, be consistent, do it for a long period of time, and watch the results accumulate over time. Thank you very much to Kent for asking this question in the comments a few months ago and bringing up this topic so we could have this video today. If you want to watch that 401k video that I mentioned before, you can watch it right here. Otherwise, YouTube thinks that you would actually love this video next. Is it true? Is it more appealing than the 401k video? You tell me. And predictably, the secret comment word for today is turtle. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.